Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today I have another book review and we are continuing with my Discworld journey with Night Watch by Terry Pratchett. I am so relieved to say, as I believe I've had 2 3-star reads in a row. This one is so good. As always, I'll read you guys the blurb first. Before we get into that, don't forget, if you like what you see, to subscribe to this channel. Your continuous support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Blurby time. Commander Sam Vimes of the Ankh-Morpork City Watch had it all, but now he's back in his own rough, tough past without even the clothes he was standing up in when the lightning struck. Living in the past is hard. Dying in the past is incredibly easy, but he must survive. Because he has a job to do. He must track down a murderer, teach his younger self how to be a good copper, and change the outcome of a bloody rebellion. There's a problem. If he wins, he's got no wife, no child, no future. A Discworld tale of one city with a full chorus of street urchins, ladies of negotiable affection, rebels, secret policemen, and other children of the revolution. Truth, justice, freedom, and a hard-boiled egg. This one actually comes with a map of Ankh-Morpork as well. This made me so happy. This is a continuation of Sam Vimes' story, but it's actually almost like a prelude to Guards, the first Sam Vimes book, because we actually go back in time, and I absolutely love this because you get to see the origins of some of our favourite characters, such as Nobby Nobbs, which, they have the most important piece of my heart is when Nobby Nobbs is Betty right there in the fields. But seeing Nobby Nobbs as the street urchin that they began as was so good. Also seeing young Vimes, you see Lord Downey, you see Veterinary, so many amazing characters, and you get to see their origin of where they started, which I absolutely adored. Unlike the last two, Terry Pratchett is back on their rising scale of writing with this one. It is written superbly. I couldn't put it down. I read it so quickly. It's funny, like you'd expect with a Pratchett book, but also at the end, I welled up. There's something about, and I don't want to give you guys spoilers, but there's something about the end of this book and its importance. As you'll know if you've been watching my Discworld series, I'll pop a link above if you haven't and you want to see the starting videos from this book review series. As Pratchett moves on further with their writing, apart from the fact he gets so much better as he goes, he also gets grittier and deals with such major world problems with less and less, forgiveness. Really gets more brutal and honest and open, and his opinions really fly from the page. But he's also very clever, like in Small Gods, where people who are not religious love that book, people who are religious love that book. You could, to some extent, still see that, but it's far less obvious that he's, being in the middle on this one. The end, really, it didn't make me cry as much as Carpet Jugulum with Granny Weatherwax. Oh, Granny! I was so concerned. But it did really hit me in the feels, and Matt also said it hit him in the feels, it's hit our friends in the feels, so be ready at the end of this, it's gonna hit home, but it is so good. As always, I have some quotes from this book, so we'll go into those. I will warn you if any spoilers come up, and then we'll go into my overall review and stars out of 5 for Night Watch by Terry Pratchett. Page 19. Ping went on in an uncharacteristic attempt at suicide. I just love this way of describing someone digging a hole for themselves and just keep on digging, but instead of saying they're digging a hole, instead it says their uncharacteristic attempt at suicide. My next quote is page 25. They want a vampire in the Watch. Yes, sir. I believe many members of the Watch Committee think that despite your stated reservations, it would be a good time. Does it look to you as if my body is dead? No, sir. Then the answer's no. What else? Again, over my dead body, but instead of saying that, it implies that Vimes has already said this to Carrot, and again, Mwah. Pratchett. Page 41. In this part, like in The Truth, where Pratchett toys with the idea of swearing with the newspaper, with the beeping, in this one we have gaps in the sentences. I will write an example of this, but very well, he said, standing up again. Now, Will, care to tell Arthur is going on, and why old Tom ing repeatedly. This is because when the clock strikes, it removes sound rather than creates sound in the Unseen University. But again, it's such a fun nod to swearing without actually swearing. Page 63. Captain Tilden. He had been a military man before being given this job as a kind of pension, and that was a bad thing in a senior copper. It meant he looked to authority for orders and obeyed them, whereas Vimes found it better to look to authority for orders and then filter those orders through a fine mesh of common sense, adding a generous scoop of creative misunderstanding and maybe even incipient deafness if circumstances demanded, because authority rarely descended to street level. Again, so truthful. Page 117. I absolutely love this quote. It is one of my favourites in Night Watch. It said seamstress on the sign, the old man mumbled. And, well, since my old woman died, you know, what with one thing and another, never been any good at doing it for myself. He gave Rosie a look of sheer, hopeless embarrassment. She glanced down at the sack by his feet and picked it up. It was full of very clean, but very worn socks. Every single one had holes in the heel and toe. Sandra, she said, I think this one's for you. So a seamstress is how Pratchett refers to a prostitute. And I just love Sandra living with the seamstresses as an actual seamstress, because people read the sign seamstress and presume they're an actual seamstress when actually it is a house for prostitution. And I love how Pratchett toys with this, and this is before some of the guilds were fully in force in this point, because the guilds came into effect with Veterinary, and Veterinary currently in Night Watch is not the patrician at this moment in time. Page 128. And that's cutting your own throat, eh? Said Vimes jovially. The creation of Cut Me Own Throat Dibbler. As I said, in this book, you get to see the origins of some of our most loved and just constant characters who appear in all of the Ankh-Morpork series within the Discworld, and it's just so sweet to see this. I think you could technically read this as a standalone, like you could with any of the Pratchett books. You can always read them out of order, but reading this one after reading the previous Sam Vimes books really lets you enjoy those little nuggets that you find of introducing these previous characters, and also guessing the characters before they've been named. Like, I found myself searching for my favourites in this sometimes. Page 135. Vimes held up Nobby. See this, he said. Is it a monkey? The woman said. Ha ha, very funny, moaned Nobby as Vimes lowered him again. Nobby Nobs! The way that Vimes and Nobby meet each other is just so sweet. Even though at this point, Vimes is not technically Vimes, but, oh, loved it. Page 139. It's a half brick, Ned reported. What? A half brick, sir. I'm saving up for a house, said Vimes. It needs no explanation. Page 148. Rare book, was it? Said Downey, grinning. I think it may now be seen to be non-existent, said the one known as Dog Botherer. That was the only extant copy. Even the engraved plates have been melted down. Don't you ever get upset, Dog Botherer? Oh yes, Downey, said the reader. He pushed his chair back and stood up. And now, I believe I will have an early night. The introduction of Lord Downey, and I won't tell you who the other character is, but if you've read the Discworld series, you may have a hint. What was Lord Downey before he was head of the Assassin's Guild? And who else may have been an assassin but no longer is? Page 177. His movements could be called cat-like, except that he did not stop to spray urine up against things. Pratchett definitely likes cats. If you haven't seen, I did a Cat Mad book review where I reviewed a book Pratchett wrote. Was it called The Undulated Cat? I'll pop a link above me now. And it's all about how you don't buy a cat, you just are given one from the cat distribution system and what that means. And Pratchett definitely has been given a cat from the distribution system. I love Grebo, who is the cat in the Witches series in the Discworld, and the cats play another part. You can just tell Pratchett had a cat. And this is without Googling that he had a cat, okay? I haven't actually Googled it, so if I'm wrong and didn't have a cat, do comment down below. But just reading his books, Pratchett had a cat, right? Page 182. Once he'd been standing so quietly, so withdrawn, so not there, that a fleeing robber who'd evaded his pursuers had leaned against him to catch his breath. And when Vimes put his arms around him and whispered, "Gotcha," into his ear, the man had apparently done in his trousers what his dear mother, some 40 years before, had very patiently taught him not to do. No explanation needed. And we're on to my final 2 quotes here. Page 351. "What did I tell you about Mr. Safety Catch?" said Vimes weakly. "When Mr. Safety Catch is not on, Mr. Crossbow is not your friend," recited Detritus, saluting. I don't know if it's detritus or detritus. It's probably detritus, so I do apologise if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. But oh, Mr. Safety Catch. My final quote is actually page 192, and this is actually a bit of a bonus quote because Matt read Nightwatch after me. He's also reading the Pratchett series in order. I think he's read some of them 3 times at this point. But this was his favourite quote in the book, so he asked me to include it, and that's page 192. "But I've spent a lot of time in Genua, where I have business interests," she smiled at him. "And now you're thinking old seamstress, no doubt." "Actually, I was thinking bespoke tailoring," said Vimes, and she burst out laughing. "But mostly," he added, "I was thinking revolutionary." We'll now go into my overall review of Nightwatch by Terry Pratchett, and as I said at the start of this video, after having 2 3-star reads of Pratchett in a row, which shocked me at this point in the Discworld series, this one made me so happy. Pratchett is back with this book. It felt real and honest, but also obviously a good time. It was hilarious. It shows that Vimes is going back with a bit of a lack of representation, but because it's going back in time, it's for a purpose, so I didn't mind this. The end got me in the feels just so much. In my scoring system, enjoyment, I gave this 10 out of 10. Writing style, 10. It's Pratchett. I mean, I don't even know why I bother telling you that every time. If it's a Pratchett, it's going to be a 10 for writing style. Plot, 10. World building, 10. Characterization, 10. Representation, I gave a 9 because, as I said, it does go back in time, so we lose some of the representation Pratchett had been getting good at, but it was for a reason. And finally, originality, 10. This was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely adored it, and this one is actually being made into a classic. Out of all the Discworld books, this one has been chosen to become a Penguin classic. Pratchett has entered that, which might mean, and I hope it does, that schools in the UK might make this part of the curriculum to read, which would be amazing if they do. I am interested, if you read this one alone and not part of the series, do comment down below on what rings home to you and what maybe doesn't. As I said, so many of the nuggets in this are from knowing the characters and finding out their origin and then becoming themselves. So do comment below if you've read this without and let me know how you found it. Was it still a 5-star read for you? But I absolutely adored Nightwatch. I'm so happy to be continuing the Discworld journey. My next one is The We Free Men, which is a dip into the children's books by Terry Pratchett and meeting Tiffany Aiken, who is our young witch. We've now, at this point in the Discworld series, kind of left the witches behind, which are 3 of my favourite characters, so I'm sad, but they are still there, but we see them through the eyes of Tiffany Aiken, and we kind of grow up with Tiffany throughout Tiffany Aiken's books, so they start off very much child literature, child fantasy, and then they age with our main character Tiffany. So I'm excited to read that one next, but Nightwatch, 5 stars, adored it. Something else this book does really well is foreshadowing with the lilac. Pratchett not only foreshadows the importance of the lilac, he misleads you, and I won't tell you how or why, but honestly, the lilac you think is going in another direction, and then towards the end you find out its true meaning, which makes it hit home so much harder. It links to something so important here in the UK, which is a hint on remembrance, which is all I'm going to say to you. I will put another hint in the title of this video for what the remembrance is of, but seriously, so good. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed what you see. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to see as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post your bookish pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye!